started to realize that foods that I was consuming were consuming my health. And I didn't think that should be, because I was paying money for those foods. And so I wanted to think about, well, why was I so confused? Why are we so confused as to what we should do for our health? You know, we go to the supermarkets and the packaging is just screaming to us from the shelves. We have, this has low fat, and this has high protein, and this has low glycemic index, and this has no trans fats. And there's all of these terms, and we hear them in articles, and this is good, and we can probably put them in a list. If I gave you a matching quiz, you could probably put them in a list of good and bad, but you really wouldn't know, why is one good, why is one bad? And research doesn't really help, because here we are eating butter all along, and then everybody says, wait, don't eat butter anymore, it's so bad for you. Our scientists have come up with something so good. What is it? Margarine. Eat margarine, eat margarine. We start eating margarine, everybody's eating margarine. Then science comes along and goes, wait, don't eat margarine. It's really, really bad for you. In fact, it's worse than butter. So go back to eating butter. But just don't eat too much. Okay, well, what's not too much? And then I grew up eating eggs, loved eggs, still love eggs. But then they said, you can only eat 2 eggs a week. Don't you know your cholesterol will just go through the roof if you eat more than 2 eggs? So the poor egg industry, everybody went, stopped eating eggs, rationing out the eggs. Is there eggs in my this? Is there eggs in that? And then all of a sudden they came back and said, oh, wait a second, we realized, you know what, there's so many good things in eggs for you, it outweighs the bad, and you could just eat them every day. So with all of that confusion, how do we know what to consume so it doesn't consume us? That's what I want to share with you. And in order to know that, there's this question that we need to answer, and that question is, well, how did God make us to process the food that we eat? We have to go back to God all the time. How did he create us? And so when God went to create the way that we would eat and burn and store our calories, scientists call that our digestive metabolism. And you've heard people say, I have a high metabolism, I have a slow metabolism. Everybody wants to have a slow metabolism, so we have a reason why we're the weight that we are. But, so all these metabolism, it is individual, person to person, what your metabolism is like. But there are these really important factors you need to understand about it. Because God created our metabolism to give us benefits, but he also created our metabolism to protect us from harm. And so just like gas is the fuel that we put in our cars, our body is fueled by sugar. As bad as you think sugar is, it's really the fuel of life. And so when we eat foods, most of our foods will be broken down into sugar molecules. And those sugar molecules get sent through our bloodstream to every organ, every process in our body, and our brain is a real sugar addict. It takes up a lot of that sugar, and that is the fuel. And when that sugar is circulating through the body doesn't overuse the sugar, just like your car doesn't overuse gas, it just uses the gas that it needs. And so when our bodies need to store the fuel, we store it in our muscle cells, we store it in our liver cells, and we store it in our fat cells. When someone creates a sports car, they say just use super unleaded gasoline. They knew what to fuel it with. And so when God created our metabolism to work a certain way, he knew how to fuel us. And what he did was create whole foods. Okay, whole foods would look like a grain that still has its brand jacket on it. It would look like fruit that has all of its pulp and fiber with it. But we humans are great. What God creates, we like to kind of recreate oftentimes. And when God puts something in for our pleasure, as well as our protection and our provision, we go in and go, you know what, I just want the good part of that. And we do that in our society with sexual immorality. God said, here's something, it's going to be productive sexual intimacy, it's going to be for your pleasure, but you know what, I'm going to put protective walls around it. But we're like, you know what, I don't want those protective walls and not so interested in all of that provision with it, I just would like that pleasure portion of it. And so we do that with food. And so we've stripped the brands off of of our grains, and we eat white things and refined flours and refined sugars, and then we've gone and squeezed all of our fruit because we don't want to eat all that fruit. We just want to drink the juice. So we have a glass of juice, which is like 4 oranges. How many of you have eaten 4 oranges at a sitting? Probably never, right? Because God designed us to get full when we had enough sugar.